hibernation chamber swelled with a hum of human sighs and semi-conscious groans. The ship, as if too impatient to wait for its crew to wake up, had begun the initial phases of deceleration. The main monitor showed streaks of fire from the nose. The stillness of sublight speed travel was broken by a judder as the powerful prow-mounted rockets strove against the 18,000 tons of invariant mass of the Invincible, multiplied now by its immense velocity. In the cartography cabins, the tightly stowed maps shook uneasily in their rolls. Here and there, objects that had not been fastened down shifted as if coming alive. In the galleys, the dishes rattled. The backs of unoccupied foam armchairs were set rocking, and across the decks, the straps and cords along the walls started shaking. A clatter from the combined sounds of glass, sheet metal, and plastic passed through the entire craft from stem to stern. In the meantime, the sound of voices could already be heard from the hibernation chamber. After the nothingness they had been immersed in for 7 months, the human beings there had passed through a short sleep and were now returning to a waking state. The ship was reducing speed. The planet covered up the stars. It was swathed in woolly red clouds. The convex mirror of an ocean, in which the sun was reflected, moved past ever more slowly. A dull-colored continent dotted with craters hove into view. The men at their stations on the various decks saw nothing. Far below them, in the titanium-built innards of the engine room, there was a growing roar. A powerful gravitational pull prized hands from levers. The cloud cover that had come within reach of the rockets turned silver in a burst of mercury, scattered apart and vanished. The boom of the engines intensified for a moment. The reddish disk flattened. The planet was turning into land. Wind-swept crescent-shaped dunes could be made out. Fingers spreading like the spokes of a wheel from the nearest crater, lit up with the reflected fire of the rocket's nose cone, brighter than the light of the sun. Full axis power, static thrust. The needles eased lazily into the adjacent section of the scale. The maneuver went off without a hitch. The craft, like an inverted volcano breathing fire, was hovering half a mile above the pitted surface, with its patches of rock half buried in sand. Full axis power, reduce static thrust. It was already possible to see the place where the blast of the jet engines hit the ground vertically below. They kicked up a dark red storm of sand. Purple streaks of lightning shot from the stern, seemingly soundless, as the noise they made was drowned out by the louder roar of the gases. The difference of potential evened out. The lightning faded. One bulkhead in the prow emitted a creak. The captain indicated it to the engineer with a nod of the head. Resonance. That needed to be fixed. But no one said anything. The drive shafts wailed, and the ship descended, though now without a single shudder, like an iron mountain strung on invisible wires. Half-axis power, low static thrust. Smoking waves of desert sand were blowing away in circles in every direction, like breakers on an actual ocean. The epicenter, struck at close range by the unruly flame from the jets, was no longer giving off smoke. The sand had disappeared, turned into a mirror of blistered red, a seething lake of melted silica, a pile of loud explosions, till it evaporated. The ancient basalt of the planet, exposed like bone, began to soften. Atomic piles to neutral. Cold thrust. The blue of the atomic fire faded. Diagonal streams of boranes burst from the nose cone jets, and in a single moment the desert, the walls of the rocky craters, and the clouds above them were bathed in a spectral green. The basalt base on which the broad stern of the Invincible was to come to rest was no longer in danger of melting. Piles to zero. Cold thrust through landing. Every heart was cheered. Heads leaned over